Today we're going to talk about how to invest using OPM or other people's money. This is a technique I've employed for most of my life to raise capital, especially when I didn't have money in the beginning. In my book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my rich dad always told me never to say I couldn't afford something. Losers have a poor mindset. Rather than figuring out how to raise money, it's easy to be a loser. It bothers me when I hear people saying they don't have money, that they can't afford to buy something. I remember my poor dad always saying he would be rich if he didn't have kids. That infuriated me every time I heard it. My rich dad, on the other hand, taught me that the poor dad was poor because he was lazy and thought his academic credentials guaranteed wealth. But the truth is, anyone can raise capital if they want to. Most teachers don't teach how to do this because they're just seeking a pension and job security. So don't limit yourselves by saying, I don't have money or I can't afford it. Instead, learn to raise money and you'll see that anything is possible. I want you to know that mindset is different, and that's what's taught to kids. Later, I'll share what the number one phrase that keeps people poor is. The reason I say only lazy people use their own money is because it takes much more intelligence to raise capital. Since I was young, my rich dad never allowed me to say, I can't afford it. He taught me to find a way to afford it. How can you make it happen? That was the question I had to answer. Most of the projects I've started throughout my life weren't with my own money, and I like that. It forces me to think and be creative. I have to educate myself, talk to wealthy people, learn their strategies about how they did it and how they could do it better. What happened is that at 72 years old, I've never needed money because if I do, I find a way to get it. Nowadays, there are options like crowdfunding, although I don't understand much about it. But the easy thing is to say, I can't afford it, and that's what the poor say. Let the rich pay taxes. I want free education, food, free manicures, and pedicures. That's laziness in my opinion. One of my favorite things to teach is how our mindset can literally change everything. If you have an open mindset, you can really change your life. That's how I changed my investment approach throughout my life. I raised hundreds of millions of dollars because I didn't have money when I was young, and I learned to raise capital. It's actually quite simple. You have to find an asset worth more than you. If people invest only in me, that's called slavery. So what I did was when I started, I wrote about it in my book, Fake Money. I looked for a small real estate property, and that's how it all began. I found a one-bedroom, one-bathroom condo on Maui Beach and found a compelling reason for people to give me their money in exchange. All I needed to do was assure them that I would pay it back. So my first deal was an infinite return agreement. There was no money in the deal because it was 100% debt. It was an $18,000 condo. Nowadays, you can't find it for that price, but the economy was bad back then. So I bought this $18,000 condo. The guy wanted a 10% down payment. You don't need advanced math. I could have used my own money. I had it, but that would have been too easy. Only lazy people use their own money, and that's what really bothers a lot of folks out there. Are you calling me lazy? I say yes, I am, because you're the kind of person who will say, I can't afford this. I can't do that. That's the problem. My dad taught me to say that. My mom taught me to say that. But my rich dad told me never to say that. Let me ask you a question. Do you work for the Rig Dad company? How much of my money is in that company? None. But using other people's money can go wrong at times. So I'll tell a story about one of my biggest mistakes. This was in 1973. I started buying my first property, a $18,000 transaction, $1,800 down, $25 per month, infinite cash flow. And I kept doing that, had a lot of properties. Then I decided to get into another business. My first business was a nylon and Velcro surf wallet company, but they didn't sell. You know, everyone knows what those wallets are nowadays, but back in 1974 or 75, they didn't know what they were. We were quickly running out of money. We bought 100,000 of these wallets from Korea, shipped them to our warehouse in Long Island, and we were borrowing money from our investors. We raised about $600,000 to start this small wallet business. We were in serious trouble. I owed my dad about $200,000. My rich dad laughed at me. We were going bankrupt fast. We couldn't sell the wallets. About 100,000 of them were sitting in the warehouse in Long Island, and nobody was buying. So, the good part about stupidity is that it makes you smarter. We started thinking, I said something was wrong and started paying attention to what was happening in the world at that time. Then I saw all the baby boomers were overweight, so they had to start running. Jogging was becoming popular, and nobody used to run before. These guys are all jogging, and then we were reading the newspaper, sitting in Honolulu, going bankrupt fast, and we read in the paper that this runner went to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco and was running around the park. The runner didn't have a place to put his car key, so what did he do? He put it on the front wheel of his car and went running in the park. We were reading this newspaper, and when he came back to his car, the car wasn't there. Oh my God, so the guy said, "They stole my car, oh my God." And then the question that was in the headline of the newspaper article was, "Where does a runner leave his key?" And so we sat there and said, "Oh my God, a problem, a problem." With that, I drew the shoe pocket, and you can see this picture here. It's a Playboy magazine. I mean, it's a young and beautiful model with nothing but a shoe pocket. But anyway, we were going bankrupt so fast at that time. However, when this picture appeared in Playboy, suddenly we were geniuses. Everyone started giving us their money to have our product. Our wallets were sold, our shoe pockets were sold, investors were happy, and sales soared. So we became extremely successful. We went from risks, foolishness, to being smarter and more successful. But the issue was how to finance our stock, because the demand was global and we couldn't keep up. So I borrowed an additional $100,000. I told Stanley, "These $100,000 will solve our problem." He said, "Yes, they will." So I handed the check to Stanley and he ran away with it. Oh my God, there was no signed documentation. I handed it to him and he claimed I owed him the money. That was one of my first 6 or 7-figure mistakes. Now, advice for millennials who are starting, well, first off, it's to invest. Invest in what you love. I love business. I love real estate. I mean, truly love. I own this building here and I love gold and silver. So I invest in what I love. Most people say, do what you love, but I prefer to invest in what I love. But I love being an entrepreneur. I love investing. It's like a game to me. I'm always looking for new businesses, new opportunities. It's just a game. So, when you look at your financial state, it's like your scorecard. It's like your golf scorecard. It's your financial state. But as you know, our schools don't teach us anything about financial states. But getting back to the original question, why did I say only lazy people use their own money? Because lazy people always say, "I can't afford it. I can't do this." It's easy to say that. And that's why they're poor. It's harder to raise $1 million than to say, "I can't afford it." I encourage you to share this video with people you know who might need this advice. If you want to keep learning about how to improve your finances and achieve wealth, subscribe to our channel. Here, you'll find valuable content on investing, saving, and enhancing your personal finances. See you in the next video.